Welcome into the Poet's Lighthouse. I am proud to bring you PGN's very own poet, Martin Gray, with his poem, Dance Floor.
These chords are ours. 8 Fs, 7 Gs, and 3 A minors that make us punch our fevered hands above our frown lines and scream before beckoning our abandoned aspirations back from the scratches on the Rock City dance floor, where our bassline beats to forgotten bonds formed in our rites of 4/4 passage before our riffs became retro. Before our demo made us rock stars with Liam on rhythm, me on lead, Dave on bass and vocals, we'd opened for our heroes on their up the bracket tours, and Rock City would throng to our songs every Saturday. But our unwritten anthems are as unknown to the libertines as their riffs seem to be to the Spartan dance floor. A minor, D, G, E minor, A minor, D, G, E minor, and we're not allowed to dance on stage anymore. No one jumps around anymore, and we don't need to wear our worst shoes anymore. And we don't have mates at the 0 deep bar or sneak us rounds for a quid anymore. Because the walls are a different shade of black. And I wish Dave was here. You see, our chorus is coming. And we wrote down all our dreams on lost bits of paper, so we'd always remember how to hit every note when we strummed the air and how to headbang like before we banged our heads against our bad attempts at melodies. Spilling beer on the bands we still emblazon on our hearts as we embrace in sweat-ridden anticipation of 8 more Fs, 7 more Gs, and 3 more A minors. And we never really liked it anyway. So much preferred it the other way, yeah. This chorus is ours. And we have reclaimed our dance floor until our song is over, shouting out of tune friendships that saved us from tomorrows at future gig posters we're too yesterday to know, kissing every A minor, D, G, and E minor we can grab from the mesh on the speaker cones, because no one will ever know this song on this dance floor like we do. And I wish Dave was here, because this moment is ours. So let's never come back, and let's never write a song again, but let's dance like we did when we fractured Dave's rib until the very last note of our outro. And let's sing like Pete Doherty and Carl Barat would have proper loved our demo, even though we never really liked it anyway.
Magnificent, Martin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, dear viewers, and thank you for tuning in to the 18th installment of our original PGN show, The Poet's Lighthouse. I am Finn Bell, your host, poet and writer from the San Francisco Bay Area. You were just treated to a reading by tonight's guest, Nottingham, UK-based poet Martin Gray. Martin originally hails from Guildford and is co-director of World Jam, a non-profit for connecting communities through poetry and music, co-host of Lenguas Open Mic, a monthly multilingual online open mic, and a news herald for our very own Poetry Global Network's The Poetry News. His first collection, The Prettyboys of Gangster Town, was published in September of 2020 by Fly on the Wall Press. He has performed extensively around the English Midlands and as far-flung as Berlin, Glastonbury, and Edinburgh Fringe. He won the 2018 Southwell Folk Festival Slam and has supported several nationally renowned UK poets, including Jess and Dominic. Now, Martin added this to his bio, and I found it very humorous and relatable. Sometimes he wonders if people keep mistaking him for the poet they actually wanted and are too polite to tell him. Martin, You are in the Poets Lighthouse finally, and it is a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so very welcome. So into our first question. In your poem, Dance Floor, is not only the reverberation of all the music played between these walls and embedded in the space, but the echoes of memories. What memories did you leave behind for Rock City to keep safe for you?
Just so many memories of just a particular time and particular friends, you know. So I grew up in a very small village. The nearest, like anywhere like that, was a good sort of 30, 40 miles away. And when you're 16, 17 and skint, you're not really going to be getting up there that much. And then moving up to uni, and then all of a sudden having all this friendship and all this music on your doorstep. I formed some of the deepest friendships I've ever had. And that place was really integral to forming those, you know, it's like you're loving life, you're in the moment, you've got your favorite people around you. It was just, for so many years, just such a beautiful place to go. We'd be there multiple times a week, and just most of the memories there are pretty hazy, but they're some of the best memories I have. So yeah, love the place.
Yeah, I can really tell that it comes through in your reading of the poem. I just feel all the energy and everything that came, you know, prior. I could tell that it was something of a hot spot for you.
Yeah, we genuinely did break Dave's rib by accident, and he wasn't happy about it. So
oh, no, I got to hear more about that story. Definitely, something for story time.
Yeah.
So my lovely viewers, we must take a break for our commercial, but when we return, there's going to be more sit down and engrossing chat with our guest, Martin Gray. Hello again, and we are back from our break with poet extraordinaire Martin Gray. So Martin, almost exactly a year ago, I know because it is coming up to its first birthday on the 11th of this month, was the publication of your first poetry collection, The Prettyboys of Gangster Town. As a poet who birthed her first book baby 4 years ago, I understand well that thrilling sense of accomplishment. What has this journey been like for you and your book since last year?
It's been an amazing but slightly strange journey at the same time, because obviously the book, you know, September 2020, that was peak lockdown around most of the world. And so it's only very recently I've actually had the chance to get out face to face and start touring it, as what generally happens with a book. But at the same time, although it's been a different sort of journey, it's been equally good, because because the Zoom rooms opened up all around the world, I was able to just meet so many people like yourself, and just be able to go and share in these events with that almost like childlike feeling that you've got your favorite toy in your hand, that it almost kind of felt like a show and tell. I think there's a real struggling to quite think of the word. It's not quite a sense of validation, but just a real sense of achievement and personal satisfaction that I've made something that a number of people have really just told me they've got something from. You know, when somebody tells you that the poems really affected them in a good way, or they really loved a certain way of writing, or a certain way of, you know, certain themes of the book or something like that, it's really magical to know that something I've written has really touched someone and helped someone like that. And so that's really the main thing that kind of fuels the journey on. You know, I mean, it's great to have the book, but the effect of the book when it does affect someone is better than the book itself, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. Yeah, absolutely does. And do you feel that that connection just really truly magnified unexpectedly with the fact of the lockdown and connecting to so much more people than perhaps you initially thought that you would?
Oh, absolutely. Because I always imagined it that I would travel around to various events anywhere I could get to and back in a night in a car sort of thing. And I'd, perhaps sell a copy to the sort of local poets and a few audience people that I'd already known. And that would have been really nice. But the book has gone further than it would have done because of the pandemic in a sort of bizarre way. I keep like a little map of where it's gone
Yes.
on my website. I really need to update, and it's got to something like 7 or 8 different countries now. It's gone to Mexico and Singapore and Sweden. Wow. It is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's made its way here to the Bay Area. I have a copy of it, and it's one of my favorite. Honestly, not just saying that because you're here. It's one of my favorite poetry books ever.
Well, thank you.
Ever. Especially because of that little Easter egg that people just have to get your book to find out about what exactly it is. There's something in that book that's just alluring.
Thank you.
If people go on their little Easter egg hunt. So wanted to talk about something associated with your nonprofit World Jam. Because, the recent evacuation of refugees from Afghanistan to here in the U.S. has been a topic that is fresh in my mind. And so when people are dislodged from everything that they know, I feel it's not only a displacement from essential needs to have home and safety, but it's also a displacement from their daily routines, their passionate endeavors and pursuits. You helped to head this nonprofit World Jam. How has the current events happening locally for you been shaping and informing the outreach programs that you're hoping to extend to these asylum seekers and refugees? I know that was a long question. Mull it over for a bit.
Oh, of course. No, it's, I would say, the refugee crisis is such a horrible thing. And obviously, it's horrible for the people who are being displaced. And,
Yes.
I do sometimes have to have arguments with people. There's a lot, although there's a lot of people who are friendly and welcoming and try to, we've got a lot of groups just in Nottingham, for example, Host Nottingham, which tries to find people with spare rooms to house refugees. We've got the Nottingham Refugee Forum that tries to provide people with basic needs and services and things like that. There's a lot of organisations, but there's also a huge amount of hostility, and it's trying to explain to people that if you're making the decision that it's safer to travel across the sea in some really rickety boat with essentially what you can carry with you, if that's safer than staying where you are, you're not taking that decision lightly. Yeah. And trying to put people into a position of, well, if it was the other way round and you were displaced like that, would you want people to welcome you into the community that you ended up going to? These are people with lives and qualifications and hobbies and interests and families. And, when you actually, meet people and, try to give, it's just trying to give people some kind of sense of home and sense of community and sense of welcomeness. It's not a political organization, it's a poetry and music organization, but it's just trying to just have that spin on it. To try and, I think in terms of how it's affected us, there's a lot of people that can potentially get involved with the organization that perhaps haven't discovered us yet. And so, if we can get to the attention of more people, the more people we get the attention of, hopefully the more of a positive difference, we can make locally. Because, if people have a sense of place and a sense of purpose and a sense of support, it's amazing what can be achieved. And if all people are encountering is hostility and things like that, you know, that we just want to try and counteract that as much as we can.
Yeah, I do agree. And what you just said hit me so hard about if people come from that perspective and think about the fact that being on a rickety boat, unsafe in the middle of, you know, a vast ocean, trying to get to a place is safety as compared to where they're coming from. That says a lot, and just encountering that hostility, encountering that resistance, and not having that, you know, that compassion. It's a little mind-boggling, but, you know, hopefully, yeah, like what you said, we counteract it with these acts that we're doing, with being active. And I think for me that is an essential thing that people don't look at when they're thinking of poetry and the arts, how we can help do our part to propel this kind of change.
Absolutely. So
you and I have bonded over being admitted introverts. And this is a seeming peculiarity to have while you're being neck deep in a world that seems well-tailored to fit only live out loud. And look at me, people. I feel that my own introversion is actually a hidden strength when I'm doing my poetry. Do you feel the same?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I think if I'm feeling like I can overcome it, then that's great. And once I actually get into the act of performing and the act of being, say, in front of people, then I really revel in it. You know, I have a real deep love of the writing and the performing and the connections that come with that. But I do find sometimes, I think it's particularly if I'm highly stressed or if I'm tired or something like that, you know, my mind and my body will find a reason to withdraw away from it. And, you know, so sometimes actually, I don't know, making that social media post or going to that event is the most difficult part. And then after that, once I've done it, it's a bit like once you get the first line of your poem written, the rest of it can flow. You know, once you know, that can be quite a difficult thing to overcome sometimes. I don't know if that's a general feeling within the community or whether that's just more, say, us being quite introverted. I've no idea.
Yeah, I've gotten, you know, a mixed bag of what people have responded, but it has been very surprising and heartening to find and connect with people who actually, you know, they seem like they have the lion's share of confidence. And it turns out, you know, everybody has their insecurities, they have their apprehensions about their performance, their poetry. I feel that connects me with them more. And it's that necessary vulnerability that is so enticing to see. And I do see, obviously, I do see that your passion for your poetry, for performing, does overcome, you know, a lot of the, you know, so-called reservations that you have, because it comes through in your poetry, and I think it conveys to the people that it's very appealing. That was my honest first experience with hearing you. I connected so much on the things that you said, and I connected with that fact that you seemed very unassuming, very retiring, but also very passionate about what you did. That balance was great. That was very magnetic, very mesmerizing to behold.
Thank you. Thank you. It's like you say, if you can turn it into a strength, and if you do that, then that's it. It's just, you know, I just do need I just do need my time where I'm hiding away from the world for a little bit, and as long as I get enough of that, then it's okay.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. I'm totally there with you. It's been especially essential during, you know, this time where surprisingly, we feel stressed being separated from everybody when we were isolated, when we were in isolation, but then we needed that further time away from emotionally from people. So I completely get that. So we are actually nearing the end of our time, and I had such fun sitting down with you, Martin. I wanted to pose one last question to you before we part.
Sure.
What poem would adult Martin go back in time to encourage younger Martin to read?
Would this be one of my own, or would this be any poem?
Any poem whatsoever.
So the poem I would pick would be Penny for a Guy by Mike Garry. The reason that would be the one is because more than anything else, that's a poem that's really inspired and informed a lot of my writing. Mm-hmm. And it's a relatively old poem now. So if I could take that to younger Martin, I could have got me into this sooner than I ended up actually getting into it. And you know, you can find this poem online. It's an absolutely beautiful poem.
I would love for you to share, or consider the next time you go to an open mic to maybe share that with us. Yeah.
Good idea.
If you would. By the way, because you mentioned, when did you get into poetry officially? When did you start doing what you're currently doing?
So I had a very long kind of in to poetry. So I started writing poetry when I was probably 18, 19. Mm-hmm. I wrote a lot of like short stories and things before that, and I don't know, something just inspired me to write a poem. I think it was a random sort of 8-line poem about St. Patrick's Day or something. I've still got a copy of it somewhere. It's probably rubbish, but I wrote for years before ever showing anyone. You know, it was probably over 10 years before I even started a poetry blog, and then it was another couple of years after that before I submitted any work anywhere. Mm-hmm. And actually got onto a stage. And where it was, I was writing in a cafe in Nottingham, and I saw a little zine on the side, a group called DIY Poets, just a wonderful, really accessible kind of grassroots poetry group in Nottingham. And they were just like, oh, you know, anyone can submit to their next one. So mm-hmm. I just sent a poem off to the zine, and they put it in the next edition. And then following that, I just thought, well, you know, they seem cool. So went down to one of their events to watch, met a few of the people, and then got on the books for their next event. And yeah, it was May 2013 the first time I got onto the stage, and I've just never looked back since then. It goes back a bit to what I was saying before about once I actually get over that initial hurdle of doing something, then it's fine. It's just that initial hurdle to get on stage took me about 14 years.
And the world is all the more rich for having you as a poet in it. I'm going to have one unconventional thing that I want to ask, because you did show this prior to the show. Can you show our audience your wonderful T-shirt, please? Oh,
yes. So I don't directly run or have anything to do with running this organisation. It's another Nottingham group called Poets Against Racism. And I absolutely love them. It's run by this wonderful guy called Manjit Sahota. And you can't look at an organisation called Poets Against Racism and go, who are they and what do they do? And they're so exactly what they say, and they're so on message, and they're so just... It's like my poetry can be quite indirect sometimes, but Poets Against Racism just smashes through.
That's phenomenal.
It's a wonderful organisation.
I'm so happy to know that there is an organisation like that locally for you.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, Martin. and as well as our audience for tuning in to the Poets Lighthouse. If you loved the poem that Martin shared earlier in the episode, please do think of purchasing his book, The Prettyboys of Gangster Town, right there, from Fly on the Wall Press, www.flyonthewallpress.co.uk. You can also find out more about his organization that he co-directs, which is World Jam. You could visit this at www.worldjam.co.uk. And keep up to date on his monthly online open mic, which he co-hosts with the enchanting, the bewitching Edith Blackbird. This online open mic is called Lenguas. You could visit the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Lenguas Diversity. Finally, you can also follow Martin across his social media at Martin Gray Poet. We do hope that you will continue to support the programs put out by the Poetry Global Network by subscribing to our YouTube channel, liking, and sharing our videos. Please have a gorgeous evening.